in the coming period will lead to stability and security in our beloved Egypt.
In under 48 hours, the page attracted more than 250,000 supporters, with thousands of comments on the statements posted by the council, ranging from praise for the army to echoing protesters' demands about the way forward.
The military has been exerting efforts to appear open through televised communiques, but some experts have described this as old-fashioned 1960s-era communication style.
What Facebook does offer is the creation of a space where people can discuss these things. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a general, obviously, answering everyone's questions on Facebook. And I think for the army, it allows them to get a taste of what public opinion is concerned about, but also kind of channel the discussion. We need to get people to get back to work. We can't threaten the economy anymore. We will address your grievances, but be patient.
One of the more popular statements on the site announces the army will not be punishing an officer who was shown on television joining the uprising. Caught in the uncomfortable position of having to run the country, the new rulers are already making decisions that are proving unpopular, including calling for an end to strikes and street protests. Their latest PR move, some say, perhaps an attempt to retain the support they'd had for not cracking down on the anti-Mubarak movement. AlJazeera, Cairo.
Well, the Egyptian government blocked our signal during the uprising there, and now the Libyan government appears to be doing the same, right across the Arabsat network at least. Well, both AlJazeera English and our sister channel, AlJazeera Arabic, have been blocked. But you can still watch us on Nilesat network at this frequency. And on the Hotbird network, you can use these settings. Our sister channel, AlJazeera Arabic, broadcasts on these signals on Nilesat. And on Hotbird, these are the settings you need. They'll all be on our ticker as well as on our website if you forget them. They're also opened up 2 new ports on Arabsat. AlJazeera Arabic is broadcasting on these 2 frequencies if you're looking for it. Well, after almost a week of closure, banks in Egypt have reopened. Egyptians lined up for the first chance to conduct business since the protests brought the country to a standstill. A popular uprising also battered the Egyptian economy. The government estimates Egypt lost around $1.7 billion in revenue. The pyramids and the Egyptian Museum have also reopened as the tourism industry attempts to rebuild. The industry accounts for more than 10% of national income. Well, with nearly all the votes counted in Uganda's presidential election, President Yoweri Museveni is on course to win by a large majority. He has 68% of the vote so far. His main rival, Kizza Besigye, has just 26%. Well, he's calling the vote a sham. A victory for Museveni would extend his 25-year rule by another 5 years. Hamid Ado is in the Ugandan capital, Kampala, with the latest.
We are the National Vote Tallying Center, where the Ugandan Election Commission is expected to announce the final results at any time from now. President Museveni has taken an early lead, and it is a huge one. He's got 68% of the votes tallied so far. His main challenger, Kizza Besigye of the Forum for Democratic Change, has gained 26% of the vote tallied so far. The opposition are saying that the vote was rigged, and some of the candidates are saying they will not accept the results. Some of their claims, including the stuffing of ballot boxes for the National Resistance Movement of President Museveni, has been confirmed by some of the international election observers, some of them from the Commonwealth and the European Union.
Well, the recent debate on Muslim immigration in Australia has once again cast the spotlight on the country's claim of being a multicultural society. Al Jazeera's Andrew Thomas takes a look.
Is there a strand of Islamophobia running through Australian society? And if there is, should politicians be exploiting it? Say no to burqas, says this mural in a central suburb of Sydney. Multiculturalism isn't working, believes the man who painted it. Immigrants to Australia should integrate more, leaving alien customs at the door. Others round here say the mural is simply racist. Since it appeared in September, it's been vandalised and had to be repainted more than 40 times. But there's no doubt it taps into something. And over the last few days, the sentiments it expresses have spilled over into national debate. On the day of the funerals of some of those who died in the Christmas Island asylum boat sinking, the immigration spokesman of the centre-right opposition party questioned why taxpayers were paying for surviving relatives to attend.
Any other Australian who wanted to attend a funeral for someone who died in tragic circumstances would have to put their hand in their own pocket.
A day later, the same politician was reported to be encouraging colleagues to exploit anti-Muslim sentiment for political gain. The Labour government called for him to be sacked. Some opposition colleagues were critical, but the party leader backed his man, and others went further. Islam, said one, is the problem. After an absence of the word for many years, the governing Labour Party this week reaffirmed its commitment to multiculturalism. Support for that on the Sunday morning talk shows.
We think it's excellent that the M word is back in the Australian political narrative.
We're a multicultural community, we're a multicultural society, and that's what makes Australia great.
But it's away from the studio sofas in the community where anti-Islamic comments have the biggest effect.
Past experience shows that when these comments are made, there is a reaction from people, and it's a negative reaction.
Australia is an immigrant nation. 44% of people were either born abroad or have at least one parent who was. There are opposing views, though, on how best to hold all those in the country together. Andrew Thomas, AlJazeera, Sydney.
Reports in Colombia are casting doubt on the government's claim that they rescued former presidential candidate Ingrid Betancourt from armed guerrillas. Colombian radio says it's seen a U.S. diplomatic cable from WikiLeaks that apparently says a leader of the FARC armed group discussed releasing Betancourt if he was allowed to go to France. Well, this was the scene in July 2008 when she returned to Paris after her release. Venezuela's foreign ministers hit out at the U.S. after it called for an investigation into alleged rights abuses by Hugo Chávez's government. Nicolas Maduro said the U.S. should not meddle in Venezuela's affairs. A group of Venezuelan students who've been on a hunger strike for more than 2 weeks are demanding the inquiry. They say the government uses judges and prosecutors against Chávez's political rivals. Mexico's President Felipe Calderón says he's sending more troops to fight drug cartels in the country's north. 4 new battalions will go to the border region. The north's key drug smuggling routes into the U.S. have suffered significant violence between security forces and criminal groups. More than 34,000 people have died in drug-related violence since 2006. Winds topping 80 kilometers per hour have caused travel delays around the Washington, D.C. area. The gales fanned fires in surrounding counties, prompting the closure of several highways. Well, as Barbara Benitez reports, the gusts also uprooted a very special tree.
4, 3, 2, 1.
It's a presidential tradition dating back to 1923, the annual lighting of the national Christmas tree in Washington, D.C. But the majestic blue spruce that has stood over the White House for the past 32 years is no more, a victim of strong winds gusting through the U.S. Capitol on Saturday morning. The previous 2 national Christmas trees